We really are stuck in our evolution because since forever, the general public takes its cues from our government to let us know what is real or false, or how far we can extend our senses to extraterrestrials who have been willing and always ready to make contact with us. So they create a blockade of secrets and propagandas and fears to turn your attention to religion, because the thing they cannot control is curiosity and imagination. And since religion is satisfying to most, up until this point, it has been the last stop as to how far we can extend our consciousness until they start calling you crazy. Jesus died for your sins is as far as this ride will take you, but I'm here to tell you there's much, much more to existence than we have tapped into. And I and other fellow humans are paving the way of what you kinda knew, but wasn't so sure, but now you're going to be sure. Extraterrestrials want to make contact with us individually and collectively, but because they're far more advanced and benevolent, they respect us enough to keep their distance and allow us to hold on to our fears and allow our institutions to control what to believe. Because if you knew you had a family beyond the stars, it would empower you, and empowered people is a threat to the status quo. So, if you want to make contact with extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings, the first being you're going to make contact with on your way there is yourself, your own shadow. Who is the person in the shadow, hiding in the dark, maybe standing in the corner, hoping you don't see yourself, but others see you, especially beings of a higher vibration? If you're not ready to ask yourself, what must I be afraid of to keep myself from integrating my shadow parts into my awareness, then you are not ready to interact with beings who operate in full transparency of enlightenment. And the first step of enlightenment is to simply turn the lights on. Several months ago, I had an out-of-body experience that went something like this. I was in a room inside of an ET ship. I was being shown things, which is not important for this conversation. In the next moment, another extraterrestrial enters the room. He or she seemed ecstatic to be meeting with me, but I couldn't fully make out their description because it was kind of dark in that room. When he or she presented themselves, I could make out certain features, like I can tell it was humanoid, but it covered itself in black fog. I knew they didn't want me to see them as they are because I was not ready for that level of transparency. Perhaps I would go into psychic shock from fear. I knew that this was the case because as we were conversing, there was a light switch on the wall. And as I reached for the light switch, another being who was in the room facilitating this meeting barked at me. That shook me to the core and caused a disconnection of my out-of-body experience, all because I wanted more than I was ready to handle. So how do you practice integrating your shadows? You allow circumstances and situations to be the teacher, and how you respond to circumstances and situations to be the lesson. Every circumstance and situation filters itself through one of these three channels: positive, neutral, or negative belief system. The lesson in all of this is where you're going to filter that circumstance and situation through. Circumstances and situations doesn't have a charge. It is fundamentally neutral. You and your belief system that you carry are charged material, a positive charge, a negative charge, and the neutral point, which is the distance between you and the circumstances. When I say circumstances and situations, it's fundamentally neutral. Every single one of them carries the positive and negative receptors, therefore it is polarizable. Once you give it a negative charge and attract it like a magnet, you are committed to the negative experience. In order to switch to a positive activation, you will have to reset to neutral by pulling away enough to see the circumstance and situation holistically. Every circumstance, no matter how negative oriented it appears, only presents itself that way so that you can align and magnify it that way. This will bring to the surface your shadow parts that lives in fear and is negatively oriented. Being positive doesn't mean that you're happy about the circumstance or situation. It means that you're positively oriented, and you know that every circumstance and situation is fundamentally neutral, therefore must contain a positive receptor. Therefore, you choose to magnify or magnify the positive in order to gain a positive experience out of it. You cannot see for others what you are not willing to see in yourself. Your desire for more of you has to be bigger than the desire for lesser of you. If you're not ready to stand in your own power, how can you stand in the light of beings whose power will cause you to run and hide? Hit the link in my bio if you need spiritual counseling for your mental health or anything you can possibly be going through.